We have some interesting developments, on the Trump legal front. So as we covered previously, Trump has been unable, despite extraordinary efforts of going to 30 different insurance companies, to secure the $500 million bond that he needs to be able to put down in this case of his civil fraud suit and the judgment that went against him for nearly that amount of money. So this has led to a variety of Fox News personalities floating all kinds of ideas for how he could potentially come up with this money. And, I don't want to make light of it because obviously it's an extraordinary sum of money. It could genuinely lead to some of his premier New York properties being seized by the state because he does not have the cash in the bank, because who does, to cover $500 million. So here we have, to start with, Larry Kudlow asking Kevin O'Leary if he might personally float this amount of money to Donald Trump. Let's take a listen to that.
Kevin O'Leary, I think this is where it's going to go. Now, I was wondering, if he can't get to the Supreme Court, will you loan him the $460 million? Just to help, in order to protect America's name. Think of it that way.
To get the bond, he was able to get the $90+ million from Chubb.
Yeah.
I don't know of a bond more than $90 million. I don't recall one.
Yeah,
and so you need cash to back up the bond insurance. And so now we're talking about the terminology of seizing assets. That actually, that's foreign language to an American investor.
Right.
They want due process.
Right.
They want the appeal. That sounds like Venezuela. It sounds like Cuba. Mm-hmm. It's a really bad look for New York, but I think it's gone beyond New York now. Bipartisan participants and financial services managers are not okay with this.
Right.
And getting very uncomfortable. And I think whether it's the Supreme Court that provides the adult supervision, whether it's somebody else, we desperately need for this kid's party for the adults to get home.
So notably doesn't respond directly to Larry. I don't think he's good for that $500 million.
Oh, no, I think he's probably good for it. I think he just doesn't
want
to pay
I don't think he's going to pony it up is what I mean.
I got a soft spot for Kevin. He's got a great watch collection. He does a lot of good watch. He's got a lot of good watch content on YouTube if you're interested.
I don't know who
he's a Shark Tank
dudes, right? That's really all I know about him. He's like trying to come out hard for Trump recently. Is that the idea?
He's like a business guy. Like he was saying, he's attacking it from the I've never seen a bond kind of thing. He likes to speak out about like business finance. I know he has done a lot of business in New York, so I'm not gonna go after his analysis there or whatever. All I would say is I think it is interesting that even his richest and wealthiest, I wouldn't call him a backer here. Also, I do think Kevin is Canadian, so that's important. They, though, are, while they may decry the decision, I've seen others, Joe Lonsdale and others who are talking about this, very, very wealthy individuals. Nobody yet, though, is willing to actually pay the fine for the man, and that seems important.
Yeah, and I would just say, with regards to his analysis, maybe we're not used to seeing people who are at that level of, the top 0.01% of wealth, seeing liens put on their accounts and assets seized, but this is a very common occurrence for, ordinary people who, get behind on child support or behind on taxes or what. I mean, that's very commonplace. So it's not like, oh my God, this has never happened before. This is Venezuela. Tax, back taxes, all these sorts of things can result in liens being put on your accounts or your pay being garnished or your assets being seized, et cetera. So this is not.
That's true. Credit card companies garnish people's wages all the time. All they have to do is take you to court, and they can put, they can literally, it only takes them a year, and they can actually take money out of your paycheck.
Yes.
Which is crazy, in my opinion.
Yes.
That's a whole other.
Indeed. Yeah. Okay, so just to underscore what is actually going on here, because again, I don't want to make light of it. It is a huge amount of money. It is really significant to Trump himself. Let's put this up on the screen from the AP. So this article goes into, yes, it is a very real possibility on the table that New York could seize Trump's assets. They say if Trump isn't able to pay, the state could levy and sell his assets, lien his real property, garnish anyone who owes him money, according to a Syracuse University law professor. Potential targets could include properties like his Trump Tower penthouse, Wall Street office building, and golf courses. Letitia James's office could also seek court permission to drain Trump's bank accounts and investment portfolios or sell off other assets like his planes, helicopters, or even his golf carts. They go on to say seizing assets is a common legal tactic when someone cannot access enough cash to pay a civil penalty. Now, Trump does still have some avenues of appeal, and Letitia James has not yet indicated how aggressive she's going to be in moving to make good on this payment that is currently owed. So a lot of things that are up in the air there. Let's skip over the next one and go to our next Fox News personality with an innovative idea for how Trump may be able to pay this judgment amount. Laura Ingraham says maybe he should crowdsource it and ask his supporters to fund this $500 million judgment. Let's take a listen to that.
A friend texted me today and said, Trump should crowdfund this fine. Like I think it's like 1 million supporters each gave him $450, that would cover the fine. But in the meantime, what are his options here? An emergency stay from a federal court? Where does he go?
So what do you think of that one, Saagar? Should he go to his supporters to crowd fund this judgment amount?
This one, look, I have no problem with people asking rich people for money, but asking Trump supporters for money, that really pisses me off. Yeah. And, especially for these Fox News people. Laura herself is incredibly wealthy. I mean, she's been in the conservative, media complex for decades now. From what I heard, she's done very, very well. It's like, okay, you shell it out then. Don't be asking grandmas and grandpas on Social Security to pay for Trump's $450 million bond. That actually makes me very upset, because the problem is it goes back to Stop the Steal and all the money, some $250 million that was raised on the backs of people. Listen, it is their money. They can do as they wish. But, Trump was like, the election was stolen. I need you to support me. And they gave him $250 million, and he didn't spend any of it on his elections. He ended up spending it on his Save America PAC, and in some cases is paying for his reelection. Legally, he can do as he pleases. I don't think that's right. I don't think it's right to be asking, a bunch of boomers mailing in checks and all these who may believe in Donald Trump. And in this case, it wouldn't even be campaign or election related. Yeah. It would be literally related to his own personal finances. And I understand the investigation and all of that obviously is political, but to have it be his personal benefit, it's not right. So look, you want to ask your wealthy people, fine, but don't be asking normal folks.
Co-sign completely. Yeah. And they really have been so exploited. Trump has tapped these people dry, number one, to the extent that, other Republican candidates have really struggled with grassroots fundraising, because Trump has just hit these lists over and over and over again. And that's becoming a problem now for him increasingly, where there just isn't enough money among his sizable grassroots base to continue to, fully fund his campaign, let alone the legal bills that he's been able to, pay with political money as well. And then you also have, the Build the Wall people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was horrible.
People who were out there, raising money from Trump supporters, claiming they're investing in some currency that's going to become legal tender when Trump is reelected. I mean, so much nonsense and grift has been directed to these people. This is the last thing that needs to happen. And I think your point is well said. If Laura wants to, put up a few million towards Trump's legal bills, she and some of her rich friends should feel absolutely free to do that. Put the last element up here, B5 from the New York Post. It's the New York Post, so take it for what it's worth. But they have some report from inside the Trump camp of how he is considering his options. And they said increasingly, one thing that they're, very seriously considering and maybe even leaning towards is simply doing nothing, letting the deadline for posting this bond pass and putting the ball in New York Attorney General Letitia James's court to decide if she's going to actually seize Trump's bank accounts or buildings, including Trump Tower. Of course, Trump Tower famously, where he declared his 2016 presidential run, where he famously has his own personal penthouse. And the thinking is, number one, again, you're sort of putting the onus on her. I think Trump probably, it doesn't say this in the article, but probably feels he can use this to some sort of political effect. And then they feel confident that through the appeals process, this amount at least may get knocked down, and then he could regain those assets. Now, there's actually no guarantees in that regard, because if Trump Tower, let's say, gets seized and sold off in a fire sale, the state doesn't owe Trump Tower back to Trump. They just owe the amount of money that they obtained from Trump Tower back to Trump. But according to the New York Post, at least, this is an avenue that he is seriously considering, which would be, you know, a real wild development in terms of politics. I mean, this man's whole brand is based on his iconic brand and, you know, his name being plastered on these buildings, Trump Tower being the most famous of all of his properties. So that's why this truly is an extraordinary development that we're tracking here.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if she does take it, it will be very politically and financially significant for. Also, I think he lives there, or at least maintains. Or, I mean, he has that famous penthouse with the gold
mostly
toilet.
in Florida now, though.
I know he's a Florida resident, but you know, with these rich folks, they do 6 months in one day or whatever, and they have houses everywhere. From what I know, he had a penthouse apartment there, the famous one, like I said, with the gold toilet and the marble, worthy of a Dubai prince.
Well, and that penthouse was probably part of what got him in trouble here, too, because he wildly, for some loan estimate, inflated like the square footage and how much it would be worth. I mean, I'm talking by a ridiculous factor. It wasn't even close. So this was one of the issues that they went after him for. Let's go ahead and put this last piece up on the screen, B3, with regard to the Georgia case. So as we told you previously, there had been a question over whether there was a disqualifying conflict of interest with Fani Willis and her former, at least, lover, who had been brought on as a special prosecutor and earned hundreds of thousands of dollars with regards to the prosecution of this case. So the decision came down from this judge that no, it didn't rise completely to the level of conflict of interest, but this was enough of a problem that one or the other of them needed to resign. He resigned. Fani Willis is still in place, but Trump is now, according to this report, able to appeal that ruling. So I'll read you a little bit of what Axios says here. They say the judge overseeing former President Trump's Georgia election subversion case granted a pathway Wednesday for Trump to appeal his decision to allow Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis to remain at the helm of the prosecution. Why it matters, they say, by granting a certificate of immediate review, Fulton County Judge Scott McAfee enabled Trump's lawyers to appeal the decision to the Georgia Court of Appeals before the start of a trial. McAfee's granted the defense's request for a review. He noted in the court filing that other matters related to the case will go forward as planned. So it's not like everything stops while this review is being conducted, but nevertheless a win for Trump and another crack at being able to slow or even completely undermine this case or get also Fani Willis removed from the case. So that is, you know, significant development for him.
Yeah, very, because the appeal, A, it takes more time. B, for Fani Willis, this is going to kick it to the appellate court. And all of this, remember, even if Trump would eventually get convicted, this is all going to matter even more on appeal again, because it's not like Trump is going to run out of money. So from what I understand, this is just going to lengthen it, you know, even more significantly. And publicly, it still remains a blow to her in the overall investigation. Not to mention the fact that even if she does survive this, don't forget, she still has to re-grand jury 6 specific RICO charges before she's able to bring them in her trial against Trump. Specifically that one relating to the perfect phone. Well, I don't know how many perfect phone calls there are.
This was
one of the perfect phone calls. One of the most perfect.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.